Hi, everyone. This is Rich Bagan from the National School Public Relations Association, and welcome to this webinar sponsored by Archive Social. And I just love the title, Spreading Happiness. Doesn't happen that much and sometimes in our school PR jobs, but it does work. So, how school districts can use social media to spread happiness and build unity beyond the classroom. I've been doing this type of work for more than 20 years, and let me just tell you, there have been two major trends in the last 10 years, and they include the idea of social media is just more important than ever, and learning how to use social media with a purpose. And I say that because every once in a while we see some things, and it's really nice stuff, but it's then a question of how does this fit in with the overall program of what you're trying to achieve in your system. And the other major trend, and this is a great one for all of us, is that more school leaders are waking up. They're waking up to the fact that you really need to be a communicator today in order to be an effective school system. Um, Today's parents and all students have grown up with instant communication, and boy, it really has taken off. And people are now starting to realize that, and superintendents are also giving green lights to hopefully our members and others in the field that will say, yeah, we need to do more and we need to do it right. So, today's little housekeeping kinds of things that all of you are now on mute. There will be time for Q&A following the presentation. Feel free to use the question function to submit questions, and we will try to get to them at the end of the show. And following the webinar, we will share additional resources that will be easy for you to reference along the way. So today's agenda really is, I'd say, one of the best that we can put together. And Archive Social has done a wonderful job because we have with us Terry Mikheil talking about spreading happiness and building unity beyond the classroom. Terry has many years of experience of working with school districts and her school district. Prior to that, she had 10 years as a newspaper reporter and editor. And so she has seen just about done everything at with a local school district level. And the one thing in the bio that's mentioned, she has a variety of experiences responding to issues she didn't plan for. And we all can relate to that in our business, for including school crisis situations and media storms. She's accredited, and as I said, is one of our leading members for many years. And Terry, we're so glad that you're with us today. So we'll get to Anil a bit later in the program, but then after Terry's presentation, we'll talk about some of the kinds of things that are really important from the legal side, the business side, and answering questions that most of you have because we know because you asked us those questions as well. And we also often refer you um, to Archive Social. So, I think it's now about time to turn us over to Terry.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Just want to make sure. Hopefully, everyone's seeing my screen now.
Yeah, we're fine here.
Okay. So, as Rich said, my name is Terry Mikheil. I'm the Executive Director of Community Relations in School District 54, which is located about 1 hour northwest of Chicago. I wanted to share this slide with you so you have a little background on School District 54. However, I'm not going to focus on these attributes because what I'm talking about today could be successful in a district with 1 school or 500 schools. The size, the student and staff demographics, these things don't really matter. Because no matter how much we love our jobs, there are days that are less than stellar. Perhaps it's you that's not having a good day, or maybe there are others at work who bring down your happiness levels. But what I want to tell you is that you can elevate the culture of your whole school district and start that by focusing on your own happiness. You can change the attitude of those around you by projecting happiness. You want people to think that your district is the best district to work in or the best schools to attend? You can tell them why it is, or you can make them feel that way every time you interact with them. So 2 years ago, I was on the plane ride home from the National School PR Association conference in San Antonio, and I pulled out my summer reading book. You know, the book that your superintendent assigns to all administrators? This book was called The Happiness Advantage, and it's written by Harvard researcher Shawn Achor. I'm an avid reader, but I've never really been a huge fan of self-help books, so I wasn't really sure I was going to like this book. But then I started reading because I'm also a rule follower, and my boss said to read it, and I could not put this book down. I had one of those Jerry Maguire moments where I wanted to share the information with all of my school PR friends that I had just left behind at the conference, with all my colleagues, with my family, and I think I might have even talked about it to the Uber driver who took me home from O'Hare that day. So today what I'm going to share with you guys is how we took the teachings in this book and built upon them as a school district to achieve a place where students and staff are highly satisfied, highly engaged, highly supported, and just plain happy. All right, so sorry, I kind of get ahead of myself with this sometimes, so let's go back to what the goals for this session are. I hope that you'll leave this webinar with practical ideas for engaging more staff members as brand ambassadors and creating peak moments in your district. And more importantly, I hope you'll leave with a smile on your face and a positive feeling about the great work you're doing. So some of you might be thinking, how does this happiness hoopla really work, or will it work? And as we always say in school PR, we're going to start with some research. The Happiness Advantage book focuses on how happiness and optimism fuel performance and lead to success. We used to believe that you worked hard to achieve success and one day you would be happy. But Shawn Achor says, focus on the happiness first. And his book backs this up with numerous research studies. In the book, he outlines 7 principles that allow us to maximize our potential. We don't have time to discuss them all today, but I highly recommend that you read the book yourself or check out one of his TED Talks. One of the 7 principles is called the Happiness Advantage. So to gain this happiness advantage, Achor identifies 5 tactics that have been proven to elevate happiness. He recommends you try each tactic for 21 days, noting that it takes 21 days to form a new habit. The first one, 3 gratitudes, is just writing down 3 things you're grateful for every day. The doubler is a type of journal. So when something positive happens to you or you witness something positive, you take the time to journal about it, and that doubles the happiness levels because you're experiencing it once and then you're experiencing a separate time when you write it down. Fun 15 is committing to 15 minutes of exercise a day. You all know what meditation is. And conscious acts of kindness is, instead of a random act of kindness, actually committing to 1 conscious act of kindness every day. For my first 21-day challenge, I chose 3 gratitudes, and I posted my gratitudes to my personal social media. So when I said I was grateful for my mom and my husband, I posted them on Facebook and tagged them because that's where they live. On day 2, when I expressed gratitude for my 3 kids, I tagged them on Instagram because, of course, that's where the kids are. And as the days went on, I was feeling more positive just from reflecting on all the things I have to be grateful for. But the happiness spread because the recipients of my gratitude also were happy to be acknowledged. And they often joined my movement or simply gave me back some love. And the first week is easy, right? I'm so lucky to have many wonderful people in my life. But as the days go on, you're forced to look for smaller things. So my gratitudes could include the first leaves turning colors that fall, or the man at 7-Eleven who constantly serves up my caffeine every morning with a smile. So I'm going to ask you guys to test this out with me out there in webinar land. Let's test out the conscious acts of kindness tactic and do some informal research of our own. I'd like each of you to send a short text or an email to someone who's had a positive impact on you this past school year, or really at any point in your life. While you're working on that, I want you to think about how it makes you feel to share this gratitude. How do you think it'll make the other person feel? What if your simple text started a chain reaction? Moving away from our informal research and back to Akers research, take this quiz along with me if you will. Feel free to play along and make your best guesses. But what Aker found from all of his research is that people who were happy achieved 56% greater sales, were 3 times more creative, were 31% more productive, were 40% more likely to receive a promotion, reported 23% fewer fatigue symptoms, it's supposed to say symptoms, sorry, were 6 times more engaged, and were 39% more likely to live to age 94. The research clearly shows that a positive, engaged brain improves performance, pride, and culture, helps retain our best employees, and deepens student, family, and commitment relationships. So who wouldn't want that in their district, right? All right, if I've sold you on this brief look into happiness research, you may be asking yourself, what does that look like in a school system? I'll explain, but first let's take a look at our happiness movement in District 54. Last year, we started with Happiness Advantage, really focusing on the staff members themselves. And it did eventually start to ripple out to the students. But this year, the students are really learning the science behind the Happiness Advantage and the principles of positive psychology. Treat others how you want to be treated. We want to listen to the slogan as well as the top. You're bringing that benefits come alive through our community. Lift our bus drivers up in a way that bus drivers are giving recognition to students for positive behavior on the bus. We're seeing the lunch supervisors interacting more positively with students. And we're seeing students doing kinder things for each other through our social emotional learning curriculum, through conscious acts of kindness. We're seeing the student ambassadors at the junior high level are leading out community service. A lot of these things are already embedded in what we've typically done, but now it's a new mindset. It's really powerful for the students that they can choose their happiness regardless of circumstances, and that indeed leads to new levels of success. I mean, does that kid at the end look happy or what? You notice my friend Spark, the orange frog shown with our logo in that video. Spark is the protagonist in a Sean Aker parable called The Orange Frog, where the frogs turn orange instead of green when they act positive and spread happiness. As we embrace this happiness movement throughout the district, people wore orange clothes, painted their walls orange, bought orange school supplies, because every time we saw something orange, and frankly, every time we see this frog, it triggers a positive association in our brains. I think we can all agree on the impact of visuals. We spent time training our staff, and this was accomplished by buying them the book, by hosting an all-district back-to-school summit with Sean Aker as our guest speaker, and by holding a full day of training for all employees at their schools or offices in August. In 2018, we also adopted a new strategic plan, which we call the 54 Promise. That includes 4 key focus areas. And 2 of those focus areas are related to our work around a positive culture. One is the commitment to the whole child, and the second is the recruitment, development, and retention of exceptional employees. Of course, the first step in accomplishing both these goals is hiring the right people. Like many of you, the key traits we look for in an interview process are the beliefs that all children matter and that all students can learn and grow. Every school day, parents send 15,000 children to District 54. They trust us to keep their children safe, to educate them, and most importantly, to care for them. This is a trust we don't take lightly. And the first step in earning that trust is hiring the best employees. Our students come to us from a mix of different backgrounds with a variety of lifetime experiences. So we seek out people who are passionate about meeting their needs. We want employees who are interested in forming positive relationships with them. Because as the adage goes, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So we brought this happiness training to our employees first, to let them know we're committed to their happiness and their success. However, we're also laying the groundwork for how this movement would spread to the students. And because we have amazing employees, many of them couldn't wait to begin sharing these messages with the students. You saw all the social media posts referencing 54 Happiness in the last video. Also, by getting our staff on board the positive movement, we were developing influencers to support this work. We were creating brand ambassadors. So as a PR department, when we developed our annual communication plan, we aligned our goals to the focus areas in the strategic plan. We reflected on what made our culture exceptional, and the answer is the people of District 54. The answer is the staff, the answer is the students, the parents, the business sponsors, the community. It's not your literacy curriculum that makes you great. It's not your behavior program. It's not your bricks and mortar. It's the people. So for a whole year, every time we wanted to toot our horn, we focused on the people. Every time we wanted to create a positive mood, we focused on the people. Every time we wanted to share our successes, we focused on the people. And every time we communicated, you guessed it, we focused on the people. With that in mind, we launched a We Are 54 hashtag campaign to highlight that it's the people in District 54 who ensure student success, which is our mission. We developed videos that we call We Are 54 videos, featuring our amazing staff and students. We also built into our communications plan opportunities to help our staff communicate. Because while I'm going to be talking about social media today, there's so many different communication tools, such as these simple, what we call promise flyers, where we asked every staff and student to reflect on the strategic plan and write down their promises for the year, and then post them somewhere where others could see them. We gave parents an abbreviated copy of our strategic plan. We created postcards for staff to send to students. All of these tactics were designed to support our staff in communicating our plan and fostering this positive culture. But more important than the publications, we talked to our staff about ways they should be sharing the messages. We look for opportunities to help our staff grow as communicators. Our principals were tasked with sharing out the District 54 promise as part of every presentation they did and keeping the happiness movement at the top of their priority list. So during our monthly administrator meetings, we talked to the principals and assistant principals about key messages and the best way to communicate them. We talked to teachers about how to share these messages with students. Please don't ever forget students in your communication plan. For example, passing out orange cards and having students write down 3 things they're grateful for. I told you guys that I wanted you to leave this presentation feeling happier than when you got here. So play the part of a student for me and jot down 3 things on a notepad or a Post-it while you're listening, 3 things that make you grateful. But I will admit the biggest turning point in our communications plan was when we invited our staff members to help us spread happiness by joining us on social media. In July 2017, we had 30 employees on social media, which is 0.1% of our employees. The thing is that we actually had allowed staff to have accounts for years, but that year we flipped the script. And instead of saying you can have an account if you want, we started saying, please join us on social media. We want you out there helping us spread our message. But flipping the script wasn't enough. We realized we needed to provide support. So if you're looking to grow your staff presence on social media, here's some things you can do to support them. Step 1, create detailed social media guidelines. And this is just page 1 of my guidelines. Because in our guidelines, we cover the usual District 54 policies and other regulatory information. However, we also offer step-by-step account sign-up procedures for those who need it. It allows us to tell people how we want them to choose particular settings, such as keeping their account public because we are a public entity, and responding in a timely manner. We also offered a social media class for the first time last year, wondering if anyone would even attend. The class is not mandatory. They're not paid to attend, and it's held after they've already worked a full day in the classroom. The first class, we had more than 100 people attend. And we didn't spend any time talking to them about how to set up an account. Instead, we talked to them about good messaging, content ideas, and how to use these tools to best communicate with families, with each other, and beyond. We also used it as an opportunity to talk about how they behave on their personal accounts and what image they want to present as a professional. It was so popular, actually, that some of our schools asked us to hold similar classes back in their building. Once our staff members started joining us on social media, we took the time to celebrate that. If a school had at least 10 people on social media, we'd visit the school and lead a presentation at their staff meetings that included a Wakelet slideshow highlighting the good work of those already using social media. The presentations were also designed to encourage other staff members to join us in sharing stories through social media about the amazing staff, students, parents, partners, and volunteers. At every presentation, we share the top 10 reasons to join us on social media. Number one is we can't open our doors and invite all of our parents into our classrooms every day, but your posts and tweets open the window and give parents a peek at life in your school and classroom. Number two, according to a 2017 Pew Research Center study, 7 out of 10 people get their daily news from social media, compared to only 50% in 2000. Times are changing. When we sent a man to the moon in the 1960s, they took 5 selfies. And I bet many of you can think of people that take that many before lunch. Number 3 is that communication builds trust and relationships. 4, social media also allows our families to become our advocates, helping us spread the good news about the work we do with students every day. 5, people are already talking about our schools on social media. We want to be part of that conversation. And actually, we want to be the people that drive that conversation. Number 6, families want evidence to feel good about sending their children to our schools. 7, it provides our students with an authentic audience to share their artwork, their writing, etc. 8, we love celebrating the people that make our schools special. Those people who are committed to the academic and social emotional success and well-being of our children. 9, when we highlight our people and their inspiring work or the amazing things happening in our schools, we're actually building support for public education as a whole. And this can make an impact on children everywhere. And number 10, your posts help engage families in dinnertime conversations. Children can no longer answer nothing when asked, what did you do at school today? I love the posts that say, ask your child about ... where you're not only telling parents what happened, but you're also prompting them with a good conversation starter. We send our staff on social media a monthly newsletter called The Social Post, with tips for enhancing their social media presence and using it to strategically convey our brand. This post includes one topic, such as how to shoot better video for social, or engaging your audience with stories. We also use it to help our crew become more strategic brand ambassadors. For example, during Happiness Month, which we celebrate each March because International Happiness Day falls in March, we remind staff that they should be using the 54 Happiness hashtag and talk to them about what would be good to share on social. For example, if your colleague brings you an orange donut that morning, that's not the message we're looking for. When instead, you could be sharing a video of children sharing what they're grateful for. New this year, we started our own 54 chat. We have had staff and parents join us on these chats to talk about topics such as innovation in our schools, social emotional learning, positive psychology, and peak moments from the year. For those of you not on Twitter, here's how it works. You choose a time, a date, and a topic, and start advertising. For us, it's worked at 7 p.m. on a night when there are very few conflicts in District 54. Although we have had some staff and parents chat in from PTA meetings. If you can't attend during that hour, it's completely acceptable for you to join in later, read the tweets, and tweet your replies. We even send out a wakelet the next day with highlights from the chat. We advertise through Twitter, but also through other avenues, such as an email to all staff. I even send our leadership team a calendar invite so they don't forget to join in. A few days prior, we share the questions that will be asked. We have 6 questions so that one posts every 10 minutes during the hour. This gives staff some time to pull photos or graphics to accompany their answers if they so desire. While I run the chat as District 54 Schools, I always choose a moderator who's considered an expert on that topic. Our Associate Superintendent overseeing our innovation work led that chat. Our Associate Superintendent of Curriculum led a social emotional learning chat. An Assistant Superintendent led our happiness chat, and our Superintendent led out the end of year peak moment chat. We even participated in a 12 days of Twitter slow chat designed to help our staff grow their personal learning networks and learn more about how people interact on Twitter. Twitter's made our district seem smaller as people connect from 28 schools. If you're interested in trying a Twitter chat, the next K-12 PR chat is at 8 p.m. on September 10th, 8 p.m. Central Time, I should say. So approximately 900 District 54 staff members are now on social media. Remember, that was 30 in July 2017. We call this group our We Are 54 crew. Our presence and engagement levels on social media also continue to grow, especially as more staff members join us every week. For example, in the past 2 years, our Facebook followers have grown by 40%, and our average monthly tweet impressions have increased by 183%. That's just on the district accounts. I have to admit I did not take the time to add up the analytics for all 900 accounts for this presentation. As you can hear, I'm pretty pumped about how we have grown our social media numbers, but having staff on social media isn't the end goal. The presentation is entitled Spreading Happiness, so let's circle back once again to how our brand ambassadors communicate that message for us. First, we trained all the staff in the positive psychology research and practices. The district got the ball rolling, but the greatest impact came from the little things each employee did to spread the happiness. And every time they did a happiness activity or witnessed a positive moment, staff were asked to use that hashtag 54happiness to share photos of students and staff writing gratitude, spotlights on acts of happiness, video of staff greeting students with a cheering squad at the start of the day, and so much more. Many of the videos have been viewed by thousands. 54 Happiness has become an integral part of our brand on social media. By sharing and retweeting posts from our staff, we are also varying the voices that are sharing our story on the district account. With the happiness movement well underway in 2017-18, last year we asked ourselves, what more can we do to celebrate and enhance our positive culture? How can we turn existing events and everyday activities into peak moments? We drew inspiration from another fabulous book, The Power of Moments by Dan and Chip Heath. Again, I'll ask you to read it or check out one of the videos on your own. The Heath brothers defined peak moments as moments that hit one of these 4 bullet points. I think we can agree that Walt Disney was an expert in creating peak moments for people. People come from Disney, talk about it being the happiest place on earth. No one talks about the heat or the long lines. But this red phone in this picture represents a smaller entity. It's near a pool at the Magic Castle Hotel in Los Angeles. The hotel has a TripAdvisor rating of 5 out of 5. It's actually a 2-story apartment building from the 1950s, painted yellow with a small courtyard pool. But the hotel staff are focused on their customers. If you want a popsicle by the pool, you just pick up that red phone there, and a staff member wearing white gloves will deliver your popsicles to you. Laundry washing is free, snacks are free, as are board games and DVDs. The Magic Castle Hotel creates peak moments for every guest every day. So we asked ourselves, what does this look like in a school district? We have so many great moments, such as Institute Days, conferences, the first day of school. How can we elevate what we're doing already? In an effort to model this behavior, we started with New Teacher Week. We've long hosted a week-long event, I'm sure many of you do, each August for new teachers and support staff in our schools. They learn about our culture and our curriculum and meet with individuals who support them in their journey. Last year, we decided to enlist the help of families and other staff to welcome our newest employees on their first day. I served as the DJ, introducing each person by name, school, and position before they walked through our line of well-wishers, who greeted them with noisemakers and applause. We changed our annual retirement dinner into a celebration of District 54 and created a new recognition called the Ensuring Student Success Award, given to teachers, support staff, volunteers, administrators, and teams. On one amazing day in the spring, the entire cabinet and Board of Education shows up unannounced at schools with balloons and music to surprise the winners. And of course, the district, the participants, and the winners all shared these moments on social media. And the schools joined in too, creating peak moments such as putting these signs in every Dooley Elementary School student's yard, celebrating a retiring custodian, and sometimes all it took was to recognize and share out the peak moments, a moment when a child makes a positive connection in a book, or a whole year of moments when a teacher can't choose just one peak moment in June. While happiness is a choice, it's also an interconnected one. If you stop smoking but everyone around you is still smoking, you will not achieve your full health potential. The same theory applies to happiness. Our happiness spread because we committed to it together as a team of 2,000 employees, 15,000 students, and countless supportive families and community members. And our happiness spread outside our district as well. We had a feature in U.S. News and World Report, and we were part of a segment on Good Morning America on Christmas Eve.
Hack your happiness, science-based ways to live smarter and happier this morning. We're talking gratitude. And this is not just about superficial gratitude where you take a picture of your washboard app and post it with a hashtag blessed. Instead, we're talking about the simple but profound practice of not taking the many, many good things in your life for granted. Look at what we found at one incredible school. Inside this junior high school in Schaumburg, Illinois, they're embracing the idea that happier kids and staff. What kind of things make better learners and teachers? I like that. It's a year-round happiness curriculum where one of their key components is gratitude. I know what I'm grateful for. My pet, my cat. In another class, students write letters to someone they're grateful. 12-year-old Allie wrote to her grandfather to tell him how much she loved and appreciated him. How does it fit around? You're getting a little emotional. Really powerful to write all this down. How does it feel? 12-year-old Zach Miller sharing his letter with his dad. I'm going to be the person I am today without your help. Thanks, big guy. Nice to know you appreciate it. Well, you're big.
For all of you RPIE fans out there is an evaluation component to this happiness campaign. The results are measurable. On our annual cultural survey, almost 89% of our staff reported they were both highly satisfied and highly engaged at work. We saw the results in students too. With the more positive culture, there was a decrease in student suspensions, student absences, mental health emergencies, and even student referrals. Now, before I turn this back over, I want to have you guys pull out your phones and see what kind of text and email responses you've received. If you want, feel free to share in the comments whether someone texted or emailed you back and what they said, as well as how that made you feel. And if you're ready to join the happiness movement, let's circle back to focusing on your own happiness. I'm challenging you today to complete one journal entry, that's what we call the doubler, 2 conscious acts of kindness, or 3 gratitudes. And when you do, share it on your social media by using the hashtag #NSPRAHappiness. Thank you.
Wow. That's terrific. Um, I was not able to get to the seminar session, and I heard great things about it, but now I know why.
Thanks, Chris.
It's really, really powerful. And the engagement part of this, I mean, all the recent national polls on teachers and climate and how they feel about going to work and all those kinds of things. It this just strikes really well right at that target because, I mean, your own evaluation showed just what it's doing for you. And frankly, to see all those smiles all the time is just a wonderful thing for a place we call school. It
It
really
sure is.
makes a big difference, and so we thank you for it. And we'll, if you have questions, you can type them in, and we'll try to get to them. If not, then we'll get to them afterwards and offline. So we just wanted you to know about that. Okay, now moving on. Um, we have Anil Chabla, who is the founder and CEO of Archive Social, and we again thank them for making today possible. He's a subject expert, really understands the legal policy and records management issues related to social media and government. I mean, all the kinds of things that you just saw what Terry was doing with School District 54, that just doesn't happen that easily. And there were, I'm sure, hurdles to cross earlier, and also some pushback from some folks to say, "Oh my God, what happens if somebody does this or that?" And then what? How legally? How are we protected? And Archive Social is the number one provider of social media archiving in government. It protects more than 2,000 public agencies. Customers range from the largest cities like New York, Chicago, and Dallas to smallest towns, and they just have a great reputation. And sometimes you don't know you need them until you need them. So it's one of those areas that I think there's a lot of good information coming forth. And okay, Anil, it's all yours.
Well, Rich, thanks so much for having me join the conversation here today. Under the theme of spreading happiness, I could not be happier than participating in this conversation with NSPRA. It's really been a privilege to work with you, Rich, and the organization to produce educational content. And on top of working with you, working with Terry and the team at Schaumburg is truly a privilege. I think you all got a sense of that from Terry's presentation, but Schaumburg has one of the most impressive social media setups we've seen in the country when it comes to school districts. Over 900 accounts, again, very productive, very effective, really driving a lot of happiness there and a lot of value for the parents and the students. Now, I have this unique challenge here to talk about legal policy and records under the context of spreading happiness. So how do those things go together? Um, and Rich, you alluded to this just a little bit, which is at the core of it, the way we communicate, what we communicate, and how we communicate it is so important. It is a serving function for all the value that we provide to our constituents, to the parents, to students. And social media is now the primary channel. It really has become the primary channel for most agencies, school districts included. And when something becomes that important, anything important will have to wrestle with other important considerations like legal policy and records. And so I'll talk a bit about that here in the next 10 minutes or so. And Terry touched on this with a slide on guidelines, what the schools in her district need to do in terms of getting their accounts really as part of the overall social media campaign. And there's some language in there about policy and records. So I'm going to deep dive a bit here for our audience today, cover a lot of ground as much as I can here in 10 minutes on public records, real case studies, and what you can do to protect your district so that you can spend the majority of your time and effort on spreading happiness because you've taken care of those legal policy and records issues. So I'm going to jump right to the record side of things. If folks, hopefully some of the folks tuned in today have thought about records from the context of anything you do that's important, that's communicated, is a record, right? In the public sector, certainly in schools. And so hopefully some parts of our audience have thought about it. Some of you may not have. I know a lot of you are still building your social media presence. You may not have connected the dots between social media and records. So again, that's what I'm going to do here today. And I wanted to lay some groundwork on this subject of social media as a primary communication and as a record. And it's important to realize the unique nuances of social media that make it an interesting legal and policy challenge. Now, first off, it's a two-way conversation. Not only are you communicating out to the public, but the parents, the students are able to communicate back to you and say something to you day in and day out, 24/7, edit, delete. All this content sits on these third parties on these sites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so forth, and really not in the ownership of the district's IT infrastructure. It's out there on these third-party sites. These sites are not set up to handle your legal policy requirements in any way. In fact, due to all of the trends around user privacy, school districts and other agencies really don't want to have anything to do with keeping your data longer than you want it to be there. So if a student deletes something, a parent deletes something, it's just not going to be there anymore. And we'll talk more about that. And at the core of it, the underpinning of all this as a record is that a school district is a public agency. And as you all, I'm sure, are familiar with, you've kept records of email and other documents. Social media is just as important as a communication. And when it comes to your communications, it's not just what's happening at the district level from your official accounts, but as Terry really painted a great picture of, it's your entire district. It's your schools, all of your schools, their official pages, your teachers, your clubs, to the extent that any of these social media sites are communicating in regards to public business, that's a public record. So again, I'll touch on that as well. So that's the landscape of what we're going to cover here today. And I wanted to get right to some interesting stats. We here at Archive Social do some different studies. Again, our bent is on protecting districts and agencies when it comes to the record side of things, ensuring that you're able to comply with public records laws and produce records when needed. And we thought this was illuminating for a lot of reasons. Even as an archiving company, this had our jaws drop a bit when we looked at how often does something actually disappear from your social networking site. So if you posted out something important in relation to a weather event or perhaps a crisis situation, or even a community, an event at the schools, how likely is it to be there in the future? And so we conducted a study across 500 public sector customers that did include cities and counties, state agencies, as well as school districts. And we looked at their entire social media presence for all of 2018. So here's what we figured out. 500 public agencies and school districts generated over 10 million social media posts in 2018. So social media really is a major platform for communication for public sector agencies. And out of those 10 million posts, when we looked at this in May of this year, so you can say those posts were up for about 6 to 12 months on average, 758,000 had already disappeared from the social networking sites. Now, again, this includes what the districts posted as well as what the citizens said back. But out of that 10 million, 758,000 no longer on the social media site 6 months in the next year. That's an average of about 126 records disappearing every month per customer. Or an easier way to look at it, 1 out of 15 communications now gone from the social network. So when you look at what you're posting on social media, what's being said to you, go to Facebook, scroll to the top, that first page of content you see, 1 out of those 15 communications is going to be gone, within 6 months of the next year. Scroll to the next page, 1 out of 15 gone. So this content disappears at an alarming rate. And again, by law, you're legally obligated to keep it. And there's also very, very good reasons to have these records from a legal protection standpoint. So again, that you can spend your time focusing on happiness. Now, on the public record side of things, there's a number of different resources that we can point you to. I'll actually share a resource here later on. But one thing to understand is that public records are defined at the moment of creation. So when it comes to something that you've put out on social media, or again, a parent has said to you, perhaps a parental complaint, and then they delete it, you might ask, well, why am I responsible for that? If it's no longer there, it's no longer there. Well, it's defined as a public record when it's created. So as soon as that complaint showed up on your Facebook, it's and it fits under your record retention guidelines, something that you would normally schedule or retain, regardless if it's there a day later, a year later, or disappears after 10 seconds, it's a public record, and you could be requested to produce it. So it's very, very important. So let's actually look at a case where this has been tested. And in this case, this is Eau Claire, Wisconsin. A student, and this is one of the weird things that happens on social media. I'm sure many of you have seen this. People tend to hold on to things from way in the past and bring them back up on your social media as if they happened yesterday. And a former principal who had a student decades prior was now a crossing guard, volunteering at the school, one of the schools. And a woman that had been a student when this gentleman was a principal was still upset about something that happened, posted content on the social media page about that. Again, decades later, the district actually deleted that comment, and because it was in violation of the policy, blocked the woman. And she then turned around and filed a public records request for that deleted comment. which the district could not produce. So again, there's a question of, should it have been deleted in the first place or not? That immediately led to a records request under public records law. And whether the district was right or wrong on removing the content, they had to be able to produce it. And being in a position where you can't produce it's a real problem. So that's actually an ongoing lawsuit that we all can follow. So again, public records law has been tested with school districts. And by the way, these records laws that we're talking about here today are at the state level. They apply to all public agencies, cities, counties, utilities districts, your airports, and of course schools. And there's a tremendous amount of case law with public sector agencies of all types outside of school districts, but we're certainly seeing it happen with school districts as well. And then going back to that point of the social networks not really being set up, or actually being set up really in a contrary fashion to your records requirements. When you go to the social networking sites, I encourage you to check out the terms of service and look at what these sites say, particularly when it comes to your public records requirements. They are very clear, and here's an example from Facebook, that once something is deleted, it's gone. So Facebook, in fact, has guidelines that say that if law enforcement wants to get some records from Facebook, it's welcome. A law enforcement agency is welcome to subpoena Facebook as long as it's before the content has been deleted. Again, once it's been deleted, the social networks really want to protect user privacy, and so it's in your hands as a district and as a school to maintain the records yourself, because the social networks are not obligated to keep it for you. So let's look at, again, a more illustrative example of how content disappears. If you're still reeling from that study of 1 in 15 social media posts disappear, again, 6 months in the next year, how does that happen? Is everybody just hitting delete all the time? Kind of, sort of in a different way. Now, obviously, a lot of the deletions were not because our government communicators or our district communicators are sitting there deleting a lot of content. A lot of the deletion happens from the other side of the conversation. Your citizens, your parents, your students. Again, as we saw in that example, somebody might post something, the district might decide to remove it, or that person who posted it might just change their mind and say, you know what, I was emotional at the moment, I said something very critical of the school, I changed my mind, I'm going to take that off, right? Or it could be a threat, and we've seen that happen quite often. So again, a lot of times it's the citizen or the parent or the student that's deleting. They might just delete their own comment. And in this example, you can see this comment thread at the very top. Sabrina starts a comment, there's some responses. If Sabrina deleted her last comment here, it's gone. It's gone off of Facebook. Hopefully you have a record of it. And again, there are active things that you can do to maintain those records as this agency does. Now, a different way this can happen is perhaps she deletes the top comment, the comment that started that thread. That will actually delete everything else that's a reply to it. So the agency's responses or the district's responses to a comment will go away too. And that's how you can lose content from what you said because somebody deleted their comment. It just takes away the whole thread. And then the third way, which is one that we never think about, but is probably the one that drives most of the record loss, is the fact that people join social networks and they leave them too. You've probably had a friend that's quit Facebook, and when a citizen does that, it actually removes everything they've ever said, again, to protect user privacy. So at some point in time, you may have a parent that's communicated with you quite a bit over the years on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram that decides to quit social media. And again, once they do that, all of the content they sent you is gone off the social network. So a major issue, a lot of ways the content disappears. Now, I'm going to share just a few more case studies here. A lot of folks, agencies come to us and say, I get that this has happened. I get those records requests, but we're just a little bitty district. We have a good community, never had some problems. And if we can't produce the content, we can't produce it. And I just wanted to share this quick case study where a university denied a public records request from PETA, again, a powerful organization, a well-known organization, that then partnered with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is another powerful organization, which then filed a records request. So a lot of times what we're seeing is that a complaint or an issue from an individual gets taken up by a interest group. And we've actually seen this quite a bit in city and county government social media usage with the ACLU getting involved. That's something for school districts to look out for because the First Amendment is a major, obviously an important a right for everybody, a major driver for a lot of the controversy on social media today and records requests. So again, it could just be that it starts small, but these things escalate pretty quickly. So I want to share an interesting case study from agency we work with, Stafford County Public Schools in Virginia. This is, again, unfortunate circumstance of today's society. We do see a lot of threats. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the lockdown, the need for lockdowns, threats appearing on social media. In this case, there was a threat posted on Facebook that students actually shared to the school district over private message on Facebook. So really nice, really great for them to report that to the school district. And then law enforcement got involved, and the district needed to be able to produce those records. But here's the issue. In the middle of those messages going to the school district on Facebook and law enforcement getting involved, there's enough time there for content can get deleted. So that's another reason why you need to have record keeping in place. Even if it's not a public record situation, there's a lot of risky circumstances that we deal with nowadays. And we have to be able to produce those records. And of course, in a situation such as a bomb threat, critical that we can produce those records to law enforcement. So fortunately, Stafford County was able to do that. Beaverton School District had a different situation, also related to today's issues and controversy around threats, controversial topics where there's two different sides and views: gun ownership, guns in schools. Again, we're not going to debate any of that here, but other than acknowledge that these are top of mind topics. And in Beaverton, they had actually employed a school resource officer. Some parents in the region were not terribly comfortable with it, and they issued a records request for all communication information related to the school resource officer program. And the kicker here is that because social media is so important and so core to your communications, all the records requests you normally get and would get on these types of issues now just include social media, right? They may not even ask specifically for Facebook, but the records request will say all communications. And of course, if you use Facebook and Twitter to communicate, that's something that needs to be considered in responding to the records request. So again, Beaverton already archiving, able to easily respond to this records request, get it to the parent, and then focus their energy on spreading happiness. And then last but not least, I wanted to share this really interesting case study out of the state of Washington with Evergreen School District. So we can talk about the legal circumstance, lawsuits, violence, all these unfortunate topics. But there are other ways in which controversy comes up, and there are other reasons to have records. And while I've shared how a parent or student might delete content, there may be really valid reasons for your district to actually delete content, or a school to choose to delete some content. In this case, the Evergreen School District was dealing with a teacher strike. This is something that happens in various regions. The situation bubbled up, a lot of controversy, a lot of content on social media. The situation was resolved, great, and it was time to move on. The district did share some content during that situation that resulted in a lot of controversy and some passionate responses, which I'll say is a really clean word for what those responses really look like. And at some point, the district had resolved this, and they wanted to get past it. They want to encourage people to come to their social media sites. They've got parents and students coming. They want those pages to be clean, that the controversy is over, but this content's lingering. So what do? They decided they're going to delete that content. They're going to get rid of that content, clean slate, but there's a public records law. And fortunately, the district was already archiving, already had the right policies in place, and they were able to do it. So again, great example of wanting to remove content, needing to remove content, being able to do it, making sure that page is now spreading happiness, but you're also fulfilling your legal requirements and you're prepared for a public records request should one arise in the future regarding this controversial situation. So there's a lot more that I can go into in terms of public records law. I did want to share this quick resource. All 50 states have a records law. In all 50 states, social media is a public record. Most states have put out guidance explaining exactly how that law from 4 decades ago applies to your social media. Check out this link, bit.ly/SM Public Records. And to summarize, as I hope you already felt coming into this conversation, certainly from hearing Terry, social media is a must. It is today's most effective way to not only build happiness, but to really serve your parents and students and your citizens. Records requests are happening all across the country, certainly in cities and counties and other types of agencies for the past several years. In the past 24 months, we've seen several records requests and legal situations arise in school districts. Now is the time to get ahead of it. And it's not a problem until it's a problem, as Rich said earlier. So that's my content for today. I do want to put out this one offer to all of you that I know many of you have questions about public records. You want to get clarity on what the public records requirements say in your state, how they apply to you as a school district. You may be curious to see how other agencies are approaching record keeping and policy. We work with over 2,000 agencies, hundreds of school districts in there. We're happy to share who we work with around you. It's likely that we already work with the city or county that you're in, and certainly a school district very near you. So we're happy to share that with you. And certainly if you're interested in learning more about real records requests and legal situations, many of the ones that don't make it to the news are ones that we see because we help protect those agencies. from those circumstances becoming news headlines. And we can tell you about records requests again in your city, in your county, with a school district just like yours. If you're interested in any of this, I do want to put a quick poll up on the screen. We'll give you a phone call to chat about this. I want to be really clear. This is not a product pitch. We do want to get on the same page with you about the legal circumstances, be a resource to you, connect the dots between how you're using social media and how you should be thinking about the legal landscape. At the end of the call, we'll offer that if you'd like to learn more about what we do and see the product and so forth, we can set that up as a follow-on. We're here. This is our opportunity to be a resource to you. Happy to give you a call. Go ahead and pick one of these options if you'd like us to do that. With that, I'll hand back to Rich. I'm sure we've got a lot of questions here to address. So thanks again for the time today.
Great. No, this is, I as I'm looking and seeing what we've been through in this almost hour already, it's been, we were smiling a lot, seeing how it was working with Terry and the wonderful things you're doing there. And then now learning about some of the kinds of opportunities that you have, and then you get a little worried about it. Are you protected? So I just think it was a great hour. Okay, I just was handed a note here. All right, we have only a few minutes left for some questions. We did have questions be sent earlier, and so we're just going to get into some of them, and both Terry and Neil, let's see what we can do. It's one of the questions was, we know that Twitter isn't where our key audiences of parents is, so we want to focus on Facebook. How do you have educators contribute to the content and community on that top social network? Terry?
Yeah, I would suggest having them create their own accounts and then post to their accounts. And what you would do as a school district is reshare these posts, at least the ones that are on brand and that communicate the message that you want. I think it's great that this person who submitted this question knows where their audience is, because that's really the first thing. Find out where your parents are at. And so if they're on Facebook, absolutely devote your attention to that.
All right. Another question is, how much is too much? How many posts should one day contain from each platform? Should we be posting the same thing in each platform, or working on different content for each? Terry?
So with Facebook and Instagram, the general rule of thumb is 1 to 2 a day. Having said that, these past 2 weeks in my district, we went back to school for all students last Monday, and then kindergarten and early childhood yesterday. So you will see a lot more than 1 or 2 posts on my Facebook and Instagram the last week. But that's just because there's something exciting happening that day. Twitter, on the other hand, I have seen studies ranging from anywhere a minimum of 3 tweets a day to up to 15. Again, what do you need to share? Think about the messages. Don't tweet 15 useless things. But if it's stuff that's on brand or retweeting and commenting, like I said, we have 900 different accounts. And so there's plenty of good information to share.
Yeah. Wow. How do you ensure compliance and oversight?
Is that for me or for?
Well, it could be for both of you. I mean, how you do it, and then Anil could jump in here.
So starting with some strong guidelines, right? That you are making sure everybody follows. I send those out to all employees at the beginning of every year, in case we missed some people last year. And occasionally I'll see someone following me on Twitter that I didn't know had a school district account, and then just reiterating with them what the guidelines are. We make our staff actually share their passwords with us too, which I think is a little unusual. But in case we run into a situation, some kind of rough employee situation, we want to be able to have access to those accounts. We do require all staff to register their accounts with Archive Social. And I know they talked already plenty about why that's important. But those are some of the ways. But also, we operate from a level of trust, right? Most of our staff are good people communicating the right message. And if somebody violates that trust, you address that with that individual. But I don't want people to operate from a level of fear and overregulate.
Okay. I'll get one more here. Um, and this is one that I see happening around the country is how can I reduce the fear of using social media in the classroom? And that may
Yeah,
be
so
fear. Go ahead.
I wasn't with that question. If the fear is fear from parents or from families, what we do is the permission to post students' photos on social media is part of our photo permission. So every family does that when they first time register, and then once a year we send it to them again. Um, if the fear is from the staff members, a teacher doesn't want to be on social media, then my response would be don't have them do social media. Very few adults fear social media anymore, but if they're not comfortable doing it, they're not going to do a good job on it, and we don't make any of our staff members do it.
Okay, great. Our time is now up. I just wanted to say to Archive Social, in particular, for sponsoring this. We thank you so much. It is really valuable. I mean, we got wonderful ideas from Terry and all of the great things they're doing there, and then learning about record keeping and what it means and how you can get burnt pretty easily if you're not on top of this is something that Archive Social can really help you with. So we thank you for your time today and the investment that both of you made in this program. And to all our listeners and NSPRA members, we say thank you one more time. A little bit of learning goes a long way, and moving us all forward. So for that, we thank you and have a good day.
Thank you.